I mean, I'll be here personally, but I mean, just
and roll, ready to rock and roll. We got a lot of good stuff ahead of us tonight. There is an agenda packet in front of everyone. If we can get a chance to see where we are. And we are glad to have those online with us to join us tonight. And thank you for everyone who's present. We still have some people who said they're on their way. They'll get in when we get started. All right, pretty good agenda for us tonight. As we look at the agenda, up on the screen, it's also in this little fine print on this piece of paper. So I didn't bring my magnifying glass tonight, so I'm gonna need some help if we can do that as we walk through the process. First thing we want to do is 5:30, and here we go. Thank you so very much. So we go over our community agreements. We've already had the roll call. If you want to just take a look at them, they are in our packet. I want you to just look at them really quick, see if there's anything we need to add to them as we are looking at our agreements, our community agreements. If we run into a snag during the course of our meeting, first thing we'll do is refer to these to see if we can get off the snag. Is that fair to everybody? All right. So based on that, let's go around the room, and if we can just simply do, acknowledgement, everybody's good with the agreements as they stand. Can I just get you to put your right hand in the air? Not good with it, put your left hand in the air. Those online, just tell me if you're good with it or not good with it, so we make sure that we raise hand. Thank you very much, Dr. J. All right, so it looks like everybody's okay. Do we need to add anything to the agenda agreements tonight? Do we need to add anything? Everybody's okay with everything's there? Right there, folks, stay focused. See what we mean, do what we say. Pause, listen as allies, trying to make sure that we get through so we can hear. Everybody has a voice, everybody gets to share, and we want to be an example in the room. All right? And please don't let me do all the talking tonight. Just any question. Yes. Yeah, thank you. That is a good question. Our timekeeper, Angela, said she would do it. She's not yet here with us. Are you volunteering? No, I'm not. Whoever volunteered to be the timekeeper for us this evening. Will everybody volunteer once? Look, we got a new doctor in the house. You volunteer. How about that? All right. Thank you, doctor. All right. So we're gonna try to stick to the agenda as close as we possibly can, understanding that we did start a few minutes late, and so we're gonna adjust accordingly. All right? Is everybody good? Are we ready to move forward? Based on that, as we look at that, before we approve the record items, I think it would be appropriate for us right now, staff, to correct me if I'm wrong, that we go and see if we have any public communication or public statement that they would like to share before we start our meeting on anything that would like to be shared. Those who are online, please feel free with your community public comment. Your floor is open now.
If you have a public comment, go ahead and raise your hand and we will promote you to panelist. Okay. Seeing none.
We have no public comment at this particular point, so let us continue on. Next item will be for us to approve the action item, approve the record action from our last meeting. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting and what issues, comments, suggestions might you have? All right, seeing that there are none, staff, did you have anything you want to share? All right, seeing that there are none, I'll entertain a motion approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes.
And that would be Dr. Mariah Bruce, ladies and gentlemen, has made the motion. Now get a second. Second. Lauren has made the second. We moved and properly second that we accepted action items, work items from our last meeting. Any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor, vote by raising your hand, right hand. Opposed have the same. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Public comment.
Any public comment at this particular point on the minutes from our last meeting?
Okay.
Any public comment? If folks have a public comment, please raise your hand and we will promote you to panelist. I think we're set.
Looks like we are moving right along, moving expeditiously. Time for us to take a snapshot of our work plan and where we are now. So let us do that. Staff, can you help us with that, please?
Yes, so, we are in progress with approving the RFQ today. Or up at that today, we have approving the RFQ, our outreach strategy design for the dissemination of that solicitation. And the two things that we will start working on are getting that RFQ to the equity committee and to the board of supervisors.
Okay. Go back one second. Looking at that, everybody on point with the work plan as we see it right now, like the questions that you have regarding the work plan, where we are with the dates that we are working with as we are moving forward with the work plan.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Online, posted with the agenda is a more full work plan of, the work from the very beginning in October all the way until the sunset of this TCAB. So if you want to see the larger, more fuller picture of what what you all are going to do across the month, it's published with the agenda pack. This is just a snapshot for these couple, for March.
All right. We see the dates that are there that we're targeting, we're shooting for, we are on track. Is there any public comment regarding our work plan?
Folks have any public comment, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll promote you to panelist.
All right, thank you very much. Let the record reflect that we've had more TCAB members join us as we look at the roll call.
So just, I'll say out loud, Angela Butler Owen,
Angela.
Nadia
Here.
Pepe,
Here.
and Leslie Brown.
Here.
And Dr. Frederick Williams.
Yeah. Very much. And, Dr. Bruce, time to get in instead, so you can just relax.
Go.
I'm
No.
completely fine with her taking over.
You guys work it out. All right, so that's our work plan. We are on track. We did have a slight adjustment with the RFQ, and it will move it to the equity committee just a minute, and we'll move to the equity committee. We don't anticipate any challenges at this point. It'll go directly to the board of supervisors, and we'll be ready to rock and roll with the RFQ. Everybody good with that? Anybody not good with that? Everybody just want to be quiet tonight. Y'all doing good. All right. I told you I don't want to do all the talking tonight. So let's work towards our final approval, to move towards the RFQ. Do we want to look at it out loud, or do we want to make everybody had a chance to review the updates? Or staff, how would you like to handle making that or that updated presentation?
The full edits went out last week, so if folks have had the chance to review them. I think we'll just go for this one, instead of unanimous, we'll go name by name to just approve
That
the
would be great.
final RFQ.
All right, so we'll call the roll.
Yes. Leslie Brown? Oh, wait. First, we need a motion. Excuse me. First, we need a motion on the table to take a vote.
You're absolutely correct.
Apologize.
Sure. Yes, sir. I would move the approval of the documents before us.
A second.
It's been moved by Mr. Willie Robinson that we would accept, approve the RFQ to move it forward. Seconded by Dr. Bruce. And so is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? Public comment? Let's open the floor for public comment, and then we'll vote after public comment.
If anyone online would like to make a public comment, please. Please raise your hand and I will promote you to panelist.
Hearing no public comment, let us come back. Let's call for the previous question. All in favor?
I think I have to do one by one for this.
Yes.
Okay. Leslie Brown? I approve. Dr. Bruce? I approve. Angela Butler Owens? I approve. Rachel Corona? I approve. Lauren Dahlberg?
I approve.
Reverend Harris?
I approve.
Bianca Lachaud? I approve. Dr. Frederick Lee?
I approve.
Walter McMahon?
I approve.
Dr. Nichols?
I approve.
Nani Obembe? I approve. Dr. Payne is not with us today. Willie Robinson?
Yes.
Okay, let the record show that.
And the record show that we have all of the TCAB members voting in the affirmative, no negative, and no abstention.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just a clarification on procedure. When a motion go to the floor, you didn't take public comment. It's not clear to me, is that the procedure we're gonna be using? Any motion that goes to the floor, is there public comments once that motion has been seconded?
It goes to public comment prior to
The motion? Prior to the vote.
yes.
So the motion has to be on the floor. My clarification is the motion has to be on the floor before you take public comment.
I think that's up to the chairs to decide. It can go either way. I've seen it go either way. Sometimes a motion might be made, seconded, and then public comment is taken, or some people say, let's wait to make a motion until we've heard public comment. I think it can go either way.
Well, the reason I'm mentioning that is that if it's public comment, what happens if motion is on the floor and someone that's in the body amend the motion? That might get a little complicated or?
Yeah, I think you have a good point. We should begin a practice of hearing public comment before making the motion. That's probably good practice.
I would think.
Yeah, but to your point, yes, anyone can make an amendment after public comment before the motion is voted on.
Sure.
Yeah, but your point is less complicated that way.
Yeah, but that's standard rules, Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, I'll start adding it on the agenda in the way that it makes it most clear.
Appreciate it. Like Kim mentioned, I've seen it done both ways, even in the board of supervisors meeting. So I think it was a standard way of doing it because it can't go both ways. The reason the motion's on the floor, as I understood it, when we hear public comment is just like discussion. We can act on it or not act on it. So once a motion is on the floor, then you open the floor for discussion. Once the discussion happens, then you go to the vote. We have discussion from the public comment, then we got a discussion in the room, then we vote. So, we can decide which way we want to handle it. I think that what we can do is agree on which way we wanna go.
Well, just one brief comment. As I understand the process, if a motion is on the floor, it's for an action from the body at that point, and we need to close that. And that needs to be closed relative to discussion, but the only persons or anyone, not anyone in the public can make an amendment. It has to be someone from the body. That's kind of the way I'm tracking it.
Right, and to your point, I agree with you. So once the motion is on the floor, then there is room for discussion, be it in the room or out of the room. The only persons that can make an amendment to the motion is people that are part of the body. Public can't make an amendment because the public doesn't have the ability to vote anyway. We vote. And since we vote, we hear what the public has to say. It may sway a vote in the room because it may be something that we did not think of. But if we get public comment before the motion, then the process is out of order because you have to have a motion before you can have discussion. Primary.
Agreed.
I'll go back and research and we'll figure out what we want. Fair
I
enough?
know I'm not the timekeeper, but.
Yes, you are.
All right. Motion carried. We're moving forward, yes? We all agree? Right. Procedural things we can hash them out, we can talk about. I have a problem with that, because there's many different ways of doing things and many different approaches. Okay? Meetings. Now we're gonna talk about the outreach strategy. Now that the RFQ is ready to go. And we'll send it to the equity committee. Equity committee is gonna give it to the board of supervisors. Board of supervisors will approve it. Once it's approved, then it will be ready to be presented to the public. So the piece that we have to do now is determine how we're going to promote.
And just as a reminder, we worked last time on a outreach blurb. We got into a great discussion about how we wanted to make it a wider reach and really honor everyone's identity. So we will have that available as the RFQ and solicitation is available for folks to be able to go ahead and share it with their networks. And there'll also be a tracker that our office can directly invite organizations or folks who folks would like us to outreach to. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of what are the characteristics and facets of the entity we would like to look for.
So how would we like to start this discussion? These are target conversations, that are target topics we want to use in building our outreach. Black-led nonprofits, community providers, healing and reentry, housing, and health networks. We want to focus on organizations in East, Central, and West County. And we also all leaders known to the network and former steering committee. Somebody give me some clarity on that last bullet. All leaders known to the network, former steering committee. What does that mean?
So folks in this room and folks in the steering committee and like folks who have been in the conversation around building out the network. Anyone who folks think need to see this RFQ is where we want to get it in front of.
Sure. Is the assumption is that, I guess it says who need to see the RFQ would not, news outlets be a way of getting it to the various parts of the community, or is that not a part of what should be handled here?
Let's talk about that. Should news outlets be part of people to see it so we can get it out? Is there a county process by which we, what they call a press conference or organization, part of the county organization that puts this information out? How do we do that? I think that's your question, right?
Primarily.
There is an Office of Communications and Media that we can partner with on how we'd like to, however you all decide to get it out there. We could do a press release. That probably would be their recommendation to us if we ask the director of that office. She would probably recommend a press release.
But if the press release, my thoughts would be that the press release, we would target most certainly those media that's in these various communities. Sometimes information does not get to. So that was my thought, thinking along that line. So
We can talk about other platforms that folks think we need to make sure we exhaust today.
We could probably come up with that list and the list of media outlets you're talking about, so that if it's not the Office of Communications and Media, it could be some of us here, or we could make sure it gets in front of them.
yeah, it wasn't anything. I wasn't recommending that. I wasn't suggesting it either, or, but most of the whole thing. If you have a process of doing it, your process, in my mind, need to make sure it reaches into some parts of the community that sometimes communication is not gotten into those areas.
Certainly. So we're building out the outreach strategy like right now in real time. And so we want to make sure, because we've kind of lifted this up a few times, that we want to make sure it goes to organizations who maybe aren't normally tapped in with the county solicitation processes. And we want to really try to use the best wisdom of the collective group here to think about some of those things. And we'll continue to do it, but this is the space for that in this moment.
So what I think we're dealing with here is we're dealing with who needs to see it and the vehicle by which it needs to be gotten to those people. I think the news outlet is the vehicle, but who needs to see it, I think, is a question that we have in front of us right now. Is that right?
Yes, and I'll say that, sorry, I just want to say Dr. Nichols' hands is up, and so is Walter.
Dr. Nichols?
Thank you. So I have two quick questions. I heard you say, I think Jessica earlier, there was going to be like a distribution list of some type. So, in the interest of being transparent and preventing any type of favoritism, I would ask, are you going to have like a predefined distribution list, or what is that going to look like? How will we, basically approve, for lack of a better word, the list that's going out or the list that's created? So that was my first question. And maybe I'm taking it too far, but I just wanted to ask, how are we determining who's on the list?
We're actually a part of you all being a part of this committee, this community advisory body, is we need your help in getting the word out. So if you have personal connections, it's fine. It's actually welcome, expected that you will send out an email, a text, put it on your social media, all the ways that you communicate right now with your communities, with your networks. We're asking you to be a part of the distribution. And so we can come up with, we have the blurb. We'll be sure to share out where that RFQ lives. Most likely it's going to be on our website. And so we'll make sure to share that out with you so that you all can send it out. Now, we're also willing, if you'd like to send contacts directly to us, we're willing to send it out. We will. We have a distribution list that we're planning to share it out with. But to the point that Willie made earlier, you all have connections that we don't have. We don't know everyone in this county. So it's going to be a both and. We'll push it out to everyone that has connected with us, from the feasibility study to the last steering committee. There's over 4,000 people that have connected with us in this effort so far. We're going to send it out to all of them. There are more Black people in this county, so we ask that you all do the same. And then this list you were talking about, we can gather names and contact information from you all for the ones that you would like us to send out.
And maybe you don't have a personal connection, but you know of an organization that you think we should shoot it to.
Yeah, I'd like to
And
just,
will we be keeping track of, just for like accountability and governance, will we be keeping track of who has been reached out to? Is that part of the process as well? Just for public awareness of who has been contacted, not necessarily who's responded, but who's been reached out to.
Yeah, that distribution list that we talked to, or Okay, for the internal one, for this TCAB, I'll keep it and it'll be something that everyone can view. We'll show who made the referral and I'll keep track notes of like when the communication went out. So that will be for the greater like ORESJ distribution list. I'm not sure how to track that, because it's just like a greater group, but,
So, and an example, and I saw that you have a comment too, but.
No, I just was agreeing with, Dr. Nichols as well as everyone so far. It's just, we should have a point of reference, a single point of contact where we send our recommendations to. And so then you send that distribution list out. The staff would send that distribution out to those community partners. I think it's okay too, if I was on LinkedIn and I shared that, but I'd also like to see that information come from the county as well. From your LinkedIn accounts, from your Facebook accounts, yeah, Facebook, all that good stuff.
We can definitely do that. But just a point of reference in terms of being asked if we can publicly share, transparent, all the people we send it to, and I may be misunderstanding. But for instance, all the folks that completed the survey for the feasibility study, the 4,000 plus residents, we have access to those folks that we can send it out to. I don't think we can publicly share all these personal email addresses of people who turned in a survey. So those wouldn't be publicly transparent. Right, but in terms of organizations that we reach out to, and especially any who have maybe responded to, I think we can definitely share with this group.
Yeah, and Peter, that was what I was referencing, organizations, not specifically individuals, to your point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We got Walter who's waiting. So Walter, what do you got?
So I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to make sure to give some airtime to specifically social media presence and the fact that things like TikTok, we need like a 30-second TikTok video. I hate to be we have to use TikTok guy, but fortunately or unfortunately, it is how people communicate in this day and age. I also think that that's going to lead to some secondary transference, because in addition to us being able to use a resource like that to forward to people, uh, people that are getting services in the community will think to themselves, oh, this is a fit for XYZ. And so they will, it'll propagate that way. I also know that these supervisors themselves do a lot of communication through social media. In fact, part of the reason I was able to get connected with this effort was through the prolific information provided on Supervisor Joya's page. So in sum, I just want to be sure to make sure that we are thinking about social media and making videos in terms of doing the outreach.
Thank you. Rachel.
Oh, are we gonna use like sites like Indeed or the county page to promote this? Like have the application and RFQ there and then just direct them to one of those sites?
Indeed, I know, we can see we will find out all of the channels that the county has. I'm not sure, I think the county probably has an Indeed account, but the county social media,
Yeah.
through the supervisors, we can ask the Office of Communications and Media to post on all the county social media channels also. I think there's a Nextdoor one, for example,
Yeah.
and see if they
Is
can
the-
post it on all of the county
But
channels.
will the link go directly to the county job listings? Or is this something completely, like, will be completely separate new link?
it would be like a solicitation, it would be like
Okay.
a different, like,
Like
yeah,
an
not a
invitation.
job or
Yeah.
a contract. So it would be through the contracting.
So would the point of contact be the office of clerk, or would it be your office?
Our office will be the point of contact, and then we'll make sure to talk to the departments that run those channels.
So that's where everything will funnel into y'all.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Or
So
is
we're
that-
capturing all of these ideas on in our minutes.
Other avenue? I'm sorry, Lady Daddy, I'm sorry, I saw your hand up.
Oh, so I was gonna say, I'm just rewinding now. So it looks like we're dealing with two different things. So we're dealing with the how to get it out there and who to. So is it possible to have two categories? So, because it looks like we're making suggestions now that, for me, I'm not picking up everybody's suggestion, but if we can have a will between two categories, we're dealing with the how do we do that? And have suggestions come up and a way to kind of a platform to follow it. As opposed to my suggestion would be instead of, emailing you, Jessica, directly, if there's a platform that you can, come up with that we can add to, people can add to that platform and say, this is my suggestion. You can still have access to it to kind of, add and subtract whatever you want. And then who is it going to, if we can do the same on that category, so people are following. I think to me, it feels like it's gonna be better managed that way than we're giving a lot of suggestions now and we're not following and we're not tracking them.
We are tracking that.
Oh, we're tracking
There's
it.
several people, yeah, we're all
Okay.
taking notes. And the.
But for those, beyond this conversation, you'll be thinking, new ideas will come up. We'll make sure there's a place for you to add those new ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple months, and so I'll make sure that we have like a place to reposit ideas as they come from this body.
Other comments on this? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make a comment about the media presence, and I'm just thinking about we're in a very peculiar climate right now. And so I think we should be strategic about what media presence that we want to target in sharing this information. So I just want to bring that to attention.
Especially to your point, especially given the climate of the current administration at the federal level. Anything, we've already heard, anything that's DEI and access related already catches a negative light. So do we want that kind of air or publicity as we push this forward? Great point. Great point. Yes, bro.
Yeah, the persons who are, and I'm making assumptions here, persons who are likely to go after this already consult certain outlets like LinkedIn is a business kind of more than a social. I'm not suggesting you don't do the social, but on certain things like LinkedIn. And then on your fourth bullet here, I noticed that you said organizations in East, Central, and West County. What about South County? Was that just an oversight?
Is there South County? Help somebody help me with that.
South counties like, Danville.
Yeah.
San Ramon.
The reason I ask is because normally we talk about primarily East County, West County,
Yeah.
and not North County or South County.
It was just an
That-
oversight.
That's kind of what I, let's add.
These were just like things to get the conversation started, but I will definitely make sure to like
question.
change.
Yeah, South County, yeah.
South County.
I'm kind of familiar with us, the county being divided in the East, West. Anyway, yeah, I was just wondering about it because it's generally known if you're dealing in this county, you also include South County. That was my only question.
Absolutely, yeah.
Walter, you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to speak to the point about which media are targeted. And, I just want to repeat the old saw that any publicity is good publicity. I know that there may be some concerns about some of the negative voices out there that suck air with respect to DEI and things like that. But I really want to be the voice that speaks in favor of talking from a place of love, talking from a place of positivity and affirmation. Like, yeah, absolutely. We're putting this out there. If the truth kills it, let it die, So I believe that a better or a different strategy perhaps might be to cast as wide a net as possible and to have a strategy to filter bad actors, which face it, if you're out there trying to do something new, there's always going to be someone trying to hate on it. That's almost how you know you're doing it right. So that's kind of my position on that.
Walter, do you have a TikTok?
Do I personally have a TikTok? I do not. If I'm being deputized to start one for the purpose of the TCAB, then I'm happy to put that to the team. But just be careful what you unleash.
Don't worry, I was just wondering, but I love the enthusiasm.
What is taking? So you don't want to, yeah.
Dr. J.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I love the social media outreach, the energy around that. But in addition to that approach, I would also recommend possibly doing something via webinar or in person or both, depending upon the bandwidth of this body. And that would look like basically an information session, so that we can make sure that, again, we're casting a wide net. And whoever can attend, individual or organization, could do just that. And it could be a webinar where we're doing something where, we'd have to take questions via chat or something like that. But just in the interest of being transparent and inclusive, that might be an approach to make sure everyone has the information and has an option to find out in that way, in addition to social media.
And just to let you know, our office is going to host an informational webinar, so for all the like organizations and things that we reposit, like we would send out that information there as well too.
Okay. Thank you. I might have missed that, but that's a great idea.
To piggyback off of that, so you probably should prepare like a frequently asked questions list to go on.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well,
So, during in the RFQ process, there is an opportunity for any question to be asked. That it's actually required that we then list publicly, like on our website, all questions and responses so that anyone can benefit from those questions and answers, not just the person who asked. So to your point, yes, we would definitely do that.
Other comments, questions, thoughts, ideas, suggestions? Let's go back for a second, because we were talking about the who and the how. And so did we flush the who out altogether? And we're comfortable with the target audience? Anybody else we need to add to the target audience that we think of? And Jessica's already said that she's gonna keep that open. Are you just gonna be able to receive information as it comes? We just send you emails and just say, what about this? Or you're gonna open up a portal so that information can be fed to you? What would be the way that you would like to do that?
At this moment, I'm not quite sure. We could use our info. I could make specifically like a digital shared space so that it could be live and could be used by anyone. So like we use the Google Drive sometimes, we can use something like that. We could do like a web board, something that's gonna make it accessible for this team.
That won't be in violation of Brown Act or anything like that. It won't be considered like a meeting. It's not a meeting, that's not a closed meeting.
If you all were to give us information, suggestions, but not respond to one another, then it will not be a violation. It can't be any kind of conversation across members, but you can always feed information to us as staff that we can then put into a repository, as Jessica described.
I just want to make sure we were clear on that part because that's a sticky subject. We don't want to get in hot water for that. Okay,
One last thing about outlets, I just stop short of, there are a number of different Black newspapers around the Bay Area. And I would hope that that would be on the list of sending information to some of the.
One of the media outlets that we typically use is what used to be the Richmond Post, which is now the Contra Costa Post. But if there are other outlets, please.
That's the Oakland San Francisco Post, it's a Black paper, and a couple others.
But if you have other suggestions,
Yeah.
the whole group, please, those are the suggestions we need.
that would be the avenue, that'd be the how. But yes, Jeff.
And then, to your point about Google Drive possibly with a Google Doc, and then we can add our comments directly to the section. That may be easier to manage.
Okay. All right, we good with this topic? Any public comment?
If anyone has public comment, please raise your hand and I'll promote you to panelist.
No public comment, thank you. Let me step back for a minute. Did look up the Robert's Rules of Order when it comes down to managing the conversation and the debate process. A motion has to be put in place. The motion has to be seconded. Once the motion is seconded, the floor is open for discussion. So the discussion or debate, that would include public comment and their feedback or information. That thing gets taken into consideration. Once it's taken into consideration, we call for the previous question, then we vote. Based on the fact that there is a motion, a clear discussion item that's been established that can be discussed, debated, and then voted on. Okay? All right. Moving right along. Here's what I propose that we're gonna do. Data dig is gonna take a bit of time. But what we're gonna do is, why don't we do this? Right, we'll hear the information, we'll take a break. We'll process it over the back, and we'll come back with conversation after we get a chance to digest it a little bit, as opposed to jumping right into it.
I'll say that everyone has this deck. It's a little bit smaller, but there's some space to take notes. If like any particular questions come up or something's feeling really, I don't know, if it's a good way for you to take notes. My colleague, actually, and I'm gonna just ask, because we're just taking care of ourselves and each other. I'm just gonna stand up and stretch before we do this, just to be honest. My colleague Iman is a data analyst in our office, and she's gonna support me with going through this. I called it both a data dig and a data dive. So we're digging, we're diving, whatever feels good for you. But yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna stand up for a second before we go. Like, I don't know why I'm like a little tired before we get going. Okay, awesome. So, are we set? Are we gonna just get going? To introduce Iman Ahmed. She's our data analyst. She's a superstar, and did a lot of work on this research. And so we worked together to make sure that we could kind of get a nice snapshot of the methodology. There were lots, the methodology and the main points that informed the implementation plan and the RFQ and the forthcoming RFP. And so hopefully this will continue to be referenced as we build out the RFP and think about providers in the way that we've been already doing thoughtfully. Okay. So this is a lineage of work. So just want to ground us in the reality that this implementation is not starting from scratch. It's built on generations of organizing and advocacy here in Contra Costa County and community leadership, sometimes community dissonance, good trouble, bad acting. It's been a lot, right? There has been centuries of structural inequities that have shaped the health and well-being of the Black and African American communities here. It was also the series policy research, did a countywide study with 16 listening sessions and 8 district town halls, over 4,000 surveys, and that was led by and for community. There also were key informant interviews with residents, providers, system leaders, and the work was done by and with community and not just about community. So the TCAB's role is really to protect the integrity of the community-driven vision as this moves into implementation. No worries. And so while county level health data specific to Black residents in Contra Costa County are not always published in an easy and comparative table online, the national and California statewide data clearly shows that health disparities for Black African diasporic people cannot be fully explained by socioeconomics. They reflect systemic inequities. And I think we all know this, but we're just, drilling in. And these are in healthcare access, exposure to chronic stressors, historic underinvestment in community supports. And so really painful and hard, and actually part of what brings me to this work as a public health professional is that Blackness itself becomes a risk factor in the US context. So even though African immigrants in the Bay Area and Contra Costa County often arrive with better health outcomes and indicators, than US born Black Americans, over time they experience worsening health outcomes that increasingly resemble the broader Black African diasporic disparities. So this pattern is well documented, and it's sometimes called the health erosion or the acculturation stress effect. So even across country of origin, language, education, and immigration status, Blackness itself becomes a risk factor here in Contra Costa County.
All right, hello, everyone. I didn't really formally introduce myself, but as Jessica shared, my name is Iman Ahmed, and I work as a data analyst with ORESJ. Thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this conversation with you. My capacity is purely technical and to support any questions that you may have regarding the amazing work that you all are doing. So just wanted to start off with that. And then I'd love to just get right into it. Okay. So there are 5 insights or principles that are essential to keep in mind when you are working with data through an equity lens. The first is that data is never neutral. There are so many stops in the data and research process in which an individual's bias or their own values or their own power can affect the results and the outcome of data and research. And that comes into play when we design studies, when we decide how to collect data, when we decide who to collect it from, as well as just the formulas that we decide to choose when analyzing numbers. So there are a lot of opportunities to get things right and get things wrong. Disaggregation reveals the truth. Disaggregation is super important. It is basically mandatory in this day and age when it comes to looking at data. Numbers might look really great if you, for example, look at the success rate of a job placement program. It might say, wow, 80% of individuals were successfully placed in a job. But if you start disaggregating the data and you start looking at men versus women or Asians versus whites, you will start to see different patterns. And that's why it's so important to disaggregate the data and look at it at a more granular level. Never ignore missing data. Missing data tells a story. Just because there is a gap in information or in a study, it doesn't mean that there isn't something important happening there. Oftentimes it's really convenient for researchers to ignore certain subgroups just because it might feel small or irrelevant. So it's important for us as advocates to ask those questions and really push to see the numbers behind populations that are oftentimes ignored. Accountability requires action. Oftentimes, researchers and institutions demand the time, the expertise, the energy of community members without the promise of there being any action. And that can lead to a very harmful and disrespectful cycle. And that's why from the get-go, community must be aware of the purpose of why their time and energy is being asked, the intended outcomes, as well as that data then needs to be handed over back to them so that, at the end of the day, they're the experts and they can make decisions for themselves and for their own communities. Which dovetails into the next point, communities hold expertise. And this point is really about sometimes folks will look at a statistic or read a study and be like, this doesn't really match my experience. Then we have to go back to the drawing board as researchers and see where there may have been an issue in the way the data was collected. We're all human beings, scientists are also human beings. So see if there was any errors in that, or we need to do further research on bridging the gap between what people are experiencing and what these numbers are showing. But there's always usually an answer and should never be disregarded. Any differences should never be disregarded.
And so while we talked about the TCAB's role and also some of the various data sources that were drawn into this, a lot of folks are like, look, we know this, we didn't need research, we don't need more research, we feel it in our bodies, we see it in our communities, we know it in our hearts, we live this in our field, we don't need no extra research. So we did the best job we could to pull this together, recognizing that the Federal D. Glover Community Wellness Network is also an avenue to ground truth the data about what we think we know about what's going on with the Black community and whether or not these interventions are going to make a difference to move the needle for our wellness here in Contra Costa County.
All Alrighty, so the Contra Costa County's Board of Supervisors asked the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice to execute a feasibility study that was then actually carried out by Series Policy Research. The research and the study itself is community-led, community accountable, and is grounded in the Black voice, lived experience, and expertise. The purpose of the feasibility study was to expand and strengthen culturally responsive services for the Black community. And the researchers prioritized looking at studying community by community, trying to identify the most needed services, the locations in which they will be the most helpful, the most needed, and where the most marginalized individuals within Contra Costa County are. And an aspect of the study was also to research the best way that county agencies as well as community-based organizations can work together to execute the vision. Here's a brief timeline of that feasibility study. So Series was contracted in 2023. From October to November 2025, there were surveys that were distributed to over 4,000 Contra Costa residents that asked about their experience living in the county related to equity and social justice. Majority of those respondents, over 80%, identified as Black or African American. And this was a multifaceted research study. So it wasn't just surveys done on a phone or a computer. There were also town halls held from February to March. There were also listening sessions held from September 2024 to March 2025. There were also one-on-one interviews with stakeholders from 2023 to 2025. And then thereafter, Series collaborated with the former steering committee to craft and then publish the feasibility study. So it's a multi-year process, and it combined quantitative and qualitative data to give the most holistic picture.
In addition to this incredible work that was happening through the steering committee and through Series and ORHJ that had been started for decades before by Black leaders here in the county had also started to move towards wanting a more equity, and in various major goals and publications, including the general plan for 2045 to close gaps for our communities, various kinds of gaps beyond health. In the Capital Facilities Master Plan, including how to determine best places for access and that's it, and co-located services. The Climate Action and Adoption Plan, which also really notes Black and African American folks as vulnerable and also quite resilient and in need of specific things in various communities. There was also the declaration that public health, that racism is a public health crisis here in the county. So internally, the county started doing the kind of, the policy work and the research to move towards what community had been fighting for all along. There were also many site visits to some comparative programs here regionally. Roots Community Health Center in San Jose, which, and there's various, there's a lot of information about these different sites, the types of governance, the lead entities, the population that they're serving, and the kinds of services, as well as the Vietnamese American Service Center and the Reach Ashland Youth Center. And I'll just say that there were also many key stakeholders for these types of multidisciplinary centers to address specific community needs. Some of them were specifically focused on the Black and African American community, and some were also youth, elders and various types of populations. So all were a part of the research and evaluation, and these models show how public community wellness centers work in practice and what governance structures matter, how they work, how they're funded, and how they work in practice and how the structures matter.
Just a quick note about these. There are so many different models for community-based wellness hubs that are led by community. But these three in particular show where the county initiated the effort to actually have something. That's why we chose these, because there is a Roots Community Health that was actually born in East Oakland, but that was born out of its own kind of genesis, right? Of where then County Santa Clara reached out to Roots in Oakland and said, hey, we need y'all to come out and do something down here in San Jose. So that's why, just to kind of clarify, these are county kind of initiated projects.
So also, this is our roadmap. Of after, pulling these sources together. At ORHJ, we published in August 2025, this implementation plan. So this is really the roadmap for the work and kind of the synthesis and then, bringing together all the analysis and the synthesis of what the recommended action steps were and kind of the TCAB's, I don't know if say marching orders, but that feels yucky right now. But kind of what's going to help us have, guide what the board has approved. So together these sources like build out the network. And so just once again, just to like take a snapshot that this was like really a labor of so many folks from the really decades of organizing, the folks who inputted directly on this, the folks who organized the steering committee series, several different departments actually helped us do some, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a second, do some internal review and external review and to really think about how what's already been happening and what can happen, what's possible. There were data teams in Contra Costa Health as well as in the Employment and Human Services Division. We have a cross-departmental racial equity work group. We worked with Evaluation Studio to design some research methodologies and our team. Transition to talking a little bit about service access, the needs, and community priorities.
Before you go on, I just wanted to make a quick comment about the steering committee that was in place. I was one of the members of that committee. And while there was a tremendous amount of data development that was done by series, I'm reflecting upon my lived experience as I lived through the amount of discrimination and denying access through my life, but more particularly, just what I've experienced here in Richmond and being president of the Richmond branch at NACP. While I don't deny the data, but I'm just simply saying that there's a lot of things that are still going on that this data does not truly reflect. So a part of what we're bringing to the table, in my assumption, is to add value to what's already there, not to take anything away. So as we move through this, I'm saying I will always voice what I believe to be my lived experience and what I'm experiencing now relative to what may be barriers that still need to be overcome. And there's no denying the historical barriers that have been, particularly for those who are of enslavement descent in this country, relative to those who came, which probably had a little bit different approach because I've also lived and worked with persons who would come to the country as African countries and interfacing with them through the workforce and what have you. It was a little bit different, but I'm just saying what I want to always add is that the value and historical value relative to the lived experience and where the data may be telling one story, we just want to shore that up and make sure that it's not allowing things to slip through the crack in terms of providing services.
Yeah, thank you. And this is actually why we're sharing with you all the data that was collected, but this is why this whole process is being led by you all. So even though this implementation plan is grounded in a lot of data that's been collected, we don't want to move forward outside a community. We don't want to move forward in a vacuum. We're ground truthing, as Jessica and Imani said at the beginning. We're making sure this is still relevant. We're just sharing with you all. And we expect and appreciate and value everything that you're gonna add to this process as we move forward. But we do just want to let you know that it wasn't kind of like pulled out of the air in a vacuum. We're just wanting to share the lineage with you so that as we move forward, you at least know that it's not just our perspective and our lived experiences, but it's a lot of people have been a part of this process, so that's all we're sharing. And then one more thing, the steering committee that we're actually referring to for this process are 13. I think you were mentioning the core committee, which established the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice maybe, but when we were saying steering committee, just for everyone here, in December 2023, so from December 2023 to April 2025, there were 13 community members who basically did the same thing that you all did, Black members of the community,
Right.
who alongside with us designed the survey that then reached 4,000 people. They facilitated those listening sessions. They participated in all the town halls. So just to let you know, when we say steering committee, because sometimes we use shorthand and it can get confused with other groups, so apologies for that. But when we say steering committee, we're talking about those 13 Black members of the community. And Pat Young, actually, who's one of our alternates, she was one of those 13. So I just wanted to let you know that as we move forward.
Thank you, Billy.
All right, so another layer of the research and evaluation was looking at the current service landscape in the county. And when we analyzed the currently available health and social services that are distributed through the county, we found that they were concentrated within the East and West County. And this generally aligns with where we see the highest needs and vulnerability, according to indexes like the Social Vulnerability Index and the Healthy Places Index. This also aligns with organizations and other indexes that are related to environmental health, as well as transportation access, such as EnviroScreen and the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. So generally, there is alignment that the most need in the county is within the East and West. However, when you look further, it's, East and West is kind of very general terminology. When you really look at things at the street level and in a more granular manner, you see that there is a limited spread as well as limited access to public transportation to get to these services. So that is an issue that was found in the evaluation, and that can create a barrier to access.
Okay. So definitely want to just talk a little bit about key themes that emerged across the data. Again, most of us are experts in this from living here, but there was a widespread perception of harm within the African American community, which signaled an urgent need for acknowledgement, healing, and repair. There was a strong interest in healing-centered approaches, including community healing circles, restorative justice, and violence interruption work, and culturally responsive mental health support. So beyond basic medical services, beyond basic county services, there was a cultural ask. There were cultural asks. And there was a clear demand for comprehensive and accessible services that address health and behavioral health, economic stability, and workforce support, as well as basic needs and service integration. So the following three tables kind of provide a little more detailed findings that inform the design and the implementation of the wellness network based on those general findings I shared.
Now, the series report has a lot of incredible data and findings. It's over 200 pages long, so we couldn't obviously include or even get close to summarizing the findings. However, these felt like three relevant data points that we should keep in mind as we continue the work. Series did ask residents what types of support or resources would help you and your community heal from the harm caused by violence, including police violence, homicides, racial violence, or community violence. Almost half of respondents are interested in community healing circles or restorative justice programs. Second to that is mental health services, legal advocacy and support, trauma-informed counseling services, and lastly, public forums for discussing safety concerns. So there is clearly a need to address the harm experienced by residents. And there's clear preferences in the ways that respondents would like that to be addressed. The next data point that we thought would be relevant to you all was what individuals identified as their 3 top wellness challenges to themselves and generally to community. The top 3 are sort of pretty similar, ranging between 42 to 41%. But obviously, folks reported struggling with caregiving responsibilities, but pretty close to that, they reported having a lack of access to healthcare. And even if those services were available, they were at a high cost. Again, lack of mental health resources and care, limited availability of those services, services in general, housing instability, lack of employment opportunities, safety concerns and policing concerns, a lack of reliable transportation, food insecurity, and in general, just issues with having to travel far to access such services. And these are pretty high numbers, over 40, like 42%, 41%, that's getting close to over half of the population struggling with one or more concerns or challenges to their wellness. This next slide series also asked what specific wellness services or practices do you feel are currently missing or would be most helpful to you and your community? The majority of individuals reported physical health services, followed by mental health support, employment support and job training, followed by nutritional education and food access programs, then safe and affordable housing services, and lastly, substance abuse counseling. So it's a kind of a wide range of services that individuals feel are lacking. This next slide is also relevant because it shows a vast, overwhelming majority of respondents to the survey have experienced violence or somebody close to them has experienced violence due to policing or in general community safety. And that means police brutality, over policing, racial profiling, homicides, or retaliatory violence. And this is also broken down by district, but you can see that it's pretty common across the county.
The highest data point so far that we've shared.
No, you're good. And then, District 5 and District 3 having pretty similar values. This next data point is obviously very concerning and distressing as well. So this is an analysis of the leading causes of death by race and ethnicity. This is just comparing Black and white individuals, and this is for the year 2023. There are several factors. I would encourage everybody to remember that the cause of some of these, such as lung cancer, can be due to environmental reasons. We find that there are certain areas in the county that face more harm through their water and air quality. We know that things such as drug overdose are due to multiple factors, such as early interaction with the criminal justice system. Those are also very commonly correlated. And you're also welcome to look this further.
I'm sorry that we can't, I don't know why I can't blow it up right now, but I'll just say that,
Maybe folks can.
yeah, sorry that it's not, but I'll just say that, for 55 to 64-year-olds, for Black folks here in the county, drug overdose and ischemic heart disease or heart attack are the top 2. And for 65 to 74, we go ischemic heart disease, COPD, stroke, lung cancer, and other cancers. So across these tables, the community input consistently points to unmet needs, systemic barriers, and clear priorities for culturally responsive, accessible, and coordinated services. And taken together, these findings move us from understanding how harm is experienced to identifying the barriers that communities face, and ultimately to defining the services and practices that are needed to support the healing, stability, and long-term wellness. Because these are the dominant harms and barriers, we believe that this wellness system, this wellness network must be built around these 6 service pillars. And so these are the priority service categories we've discussed in the past, which are large buckets, and we are going to continue to refine them. So behavioral health services, particularly for African American males, housing navigation services and support. So particularly for those who are at immediate risk of losing housing, especially those with young children, including African American males. Preventative healthcare, including checkups and screenings, especially for elders and for young children. Infant and maternal healthcare services and supports. Resource navigation to enroll in benefits such as Medi-Cal, CalFresh, and other public resources. And reentry support and restorative alternatives. So for those transitioning from incarceration, especially African American males. And hopefully before they even get there. So the data in the community voice is really telling us that they prefer decentralized services. They want multiple locations to access. They also, and 43% want multiple service sites countywide. The listening sessions and town halls revealed that folks really would prefer a centralized physical hub in East County and paired with broader community-based network of coordinated services. So folks don't just want another county government resource space. And so our office recommended to implement a distributed service model anchored by multiple accessible service locations near the highest need census tracts and a centralized hub in East County to support the coordination, visibility, and healing-centered access of folks across the county.
All right. I know it's been a lot so far, folks. Would you believe that this is the abridged version of what we are going to share today? But bear with me, there are only a few more slides left. So the Healthy Places Index and understanding concentrated vulnerability. So ORESJ analyzed the county by census tract using the Healthy Places Index. So there are 2 questions here, which is why census tract? Research is moving more and more towards analyzing populations via census tract because it provides a very pointed and granular snapshot at a community. I'm sure that we've all experienced a city looking very different street to street and a street looking very different intersection to intersection. So census tracts try to mitigate some of those differences. The way that the Census Bureau has designed each tract is by keeping populations limited. So you can't have like 10,000 people in a census tract. It has to be a smaller group of individuals. The individuals have to have a similar economic like standpoint or level, as well as the level of diversity is oftentimes similar within one census tract. And that allows researchers to accurately describe and analyze populations. The second question is why the Healthy Places Index. The Healthy Places Index really points towards life expectancy, and that's what we're looking at here, right? Like everybody's right to have a healthy and long life. And the way that the Healthy Places Index attempts to do that is through measuring 23 different data points. Some of those include employment, income, educational attainment of the household, home ownership, and health insurance coverage. Believe it or not, I'm sure you all probably assume this. All of these are tied to longevity and health. After the analysis, we found that there were 12 census tracts that also had a population of Black or African American residents above 10%. but that also fell below the 25th percentile across the state, which means that they, it's the bottom 25th percentile. And these 12 tracks are concentrated in North Richmond, Pittsburgh, and Antioch. For example, the lowest Healthy Places Index ranking was 5.3 in Antioch. That means that that specific census tract only does better than 5.3% of census tracts in the state. Or that's very low. That's like bottom, very bottom percentile. This is a problem because we have census tracts in this county that are in the 100th percentile. So that that gap is very concerning. One gap, and within these 12 critical census tracts, there was only one library, no emergency medical services through the county, should clarify, no OBGYN providers through the county. And there were a few EHSD offices related to workforce development, childcare, and service integration. So this next slide, I just realized that you all see this as a PDF. So is this, it's not clickable anymore, is it?
No.
All right, so we'll try to get you the specific link.
Did it work? The digital one is.
Okay, perfect. So that will take you to an interactive map, which I have which Jessica has kindly screenshotted and placed here. This sort of gives us an idea of all of the county services throughout the county, essentially. Any physical sites in which either EHSD or a library, including legal services as well. As you can see, a lot of those services are concentrated in particular areas. And once you kind of hop on your computers, you're actually able to interact with the map, zoom in, and see what exact services are available and which areas.
Okay. All right. So this is a lot, but just to bring it back to our role as the TCAB and the role to implement moving forward. Part of what this means is that this is not a general countywide program. This is a place-based racial equity intervention. Eligibility rules, leadership requirements, and attendance awards must prioritize these geographies, these populations, and these disparities.
All right, so we wanted to give you all a snapshot of the critical census tracts in West County. The way that the scale works is the dark blue is the bottom 25th percentile, and then it gets slightly better, lighter blue, lighter green, and the top percentile of the HPI or Healthy Places Index is dark green. And Jessica has so kindly broken down each census tract by description for all of you to analyze, which you can do so further on your own time, but some notable areas that we may all be familiar with: Iron Triangle, the refinery corridor. These were included amongst the most critical census tracts.
And so definitely take a look at these. We'll be looking at these further as we complete the RFP, recognizing that neighborhoods change, but nobody really talks about, yeah, my census tract 2445. Nobody knows what that is. But we know neighborhood names, and we also know neighborhood names come in when they force us to sell our homes and reframe the community. Yes.
Oh, can we go back to the East County one, just to give people an idea of the map, just a little screenshot. Again, dark blue is the bottom 25th percentile. And then you can just kind of scroll through those tables and look at those in your own time. Some notable areas, the Hillcrest area and the Los Medanos area. All right, I think we can go. And again, all of these layers of evaluation come to the same conclusion, which is there are very particular areas and services needed to improve or to achieve the goals of the network.
Can I also just offer one point of clarification? Those different census tract areas, it does not mean that services can only be delivered in those areas. It does not mean that residents in those areas are the only ones to receive services. It means that any services that this network funds and coordinates must be accessible to the people in those communities. It can also extend beyond those boundaries, but at the very least, those community members must be able to access the services that are being offered. I hope that offers a little more clarity.
All right, so community told us exactly what kind of system they want, okay? They don't want one building, they do not want just county agencies, and they do not want just clinics, okay? They want healing circles, mental health, access, restorative justice, legal advocacy, reentry support, housing navigation, infant, maternal, and elder supports across accessible neighborhood sites, and overwhelmingly, they want resources for African-American males that don't include them having to be locked up for. And they want it delivered by trusted Black organizations. This leads directly to the implementation model, a distributed Black-led network of providers anchored by anchored by a culturally responsive backbone organization with comprehensive administrative and coordination acumen. Okay, this is a big task. And all of this is the logic behind the lead entity in the RFQ that we just approved, the RFP for CBOs that'll be coming out and we'll be working on, the executive director, the board, and the community council. Oh, maybe taking. And then, okay, sorry, I have my final note. So the feasibility study and data show that Black residents are facing overlapping crises in health, housing, reentry, and safety, concentrated in specific neighborhoods and shaped by systemic inequities. And this means that the people chosen to lead this initiative must be capable of addressing trauma, distress, and structural barriers, not just managing programs. So the data requires leaders who are trusted by Black communities in Antioch, Pittsburgh, Richmond, North Richmond, and all the various places in the county, and who have lived or deeply embedded experience navigating systems, administering systems, designing systems, and who understand those systems that have harmed Black families, and a leader who can bridge community wisdom with the public.
Let's give them a big round of applause. That's a lot of stuff.
You can thank Iman and Kendra and Peter for having me cut 25 other slides out of it.
So why don't we do this? Let's take a 7-minute stretch. Take some ideas, some thoughts. Before, and then come back. Let's have some dialogue, questions, comments, as we come back, and then we'll do that. Let me try to catch this guy before you.
I'm gonna turn on the clock, okay? Set 7 minutes, the timer will be on.
Thank you, should I pause?
7-minute stretch. All right, now we're back in court. We're back. There's opportunity for us to share some comments, suggestions, ideas, get some clarity from the data that we heard. This is a Q&A period. We're gonna do this for a bit. This isn't the end of our Q&A period, but it is a Q&A period. We had a gentleman that was with us listening, Mr. Cornelius Johnson. And he is one of the individuals that's watching the process and has a lot of feedback that he'll share. I'll follow up with him. I'm sure he'll give me an earful. But we'll get some good feedback and I'll share that with you. He had to leave, but he yeah. So why don't we do this before we go in? How about we see if there's any public comment before we get into our discussion?
If there's any public comment on the data presentation, folks can raise their hand and I will promote you to panelist.
And seeing no hands at this time, I will bring the conversation back into the room. What thoughts, questions, comments, suggestions, ideas did you come up with from the data that we were just presented with? You don't have to present it all now. Just if you had some specific questions that you'd like to ask or pull on some threads to get some clarity.
I'll start off.
Certainly.
I raised a question before about some kind of a defined definition for census tract. And as the data was, or the information was being presented, you offered some clarification on that. In certain communities, and let me pick on the one that I'm probably more familiar with, the census tract of North Richmond. The demographics has changed drastically. And as we look at it, you can go to the last census, it'll tell you how many Black residents that's there in that community. And I haven't looked at it recently, but I know it's way down for what the perception is. But as we look at that, and as you defined the census tract, I'm just wondering, this program is designed specifically for Blacks, but not Blacks exclusively. Is that a fair understanding?
Well, so this will prioritize Black communities. These dollars, however, can't be restricted to any one particular group. So if other folks were to come to any of the services that the organizations offer and to ask, then for the most part, I think most organizations are always going to offer those services to whoever comes to them. But the goal for this is that every service that is delivered should be led by a Black organization that has the competency, the cultural competency, the skill sets, the credibility that can prioritize the needs of Black communities, so that Black communities in particular are always going to feel welcome, respected, and can access those services by the providers. Does that answer the question?
Oh, well, that it gets to a discussion that I think need to be had further, because as the program was put together, most certainly it's not going to be just something that's going to change anything, but if you design a program and being familiar with the whole civil rights movement, it came as a result of discrimination and issues associated with Black, but once those laws were put in place, it helped everybody. And I'm assuming this is basically the same thing, but the focus has to be, in my mind, for Blacks in the community who's been the most quote unquote harmed. And my question was more centered around finding the census tract and how do we, with the shifting demographics, can we clearly say that if we're looking at North Richmond, the services for that community will be not just available, what might be the opportunity to have points of services from North Richmond? And that would be a concern that I would have. And that would apply to any other community.
So that, as we talked about, like sometimes data just comes out on a timeline that it comes out. And so census only happens every couple of years. And so trying to like line up with the data in real time from like when this process started to now, there certainly are going to be changes. We know we've seen Black communities completely go from very large amount change. But it's not gonna change like in a way that's gonna change the fact that for the Black communities that are there in those census tracts, they're suffering the most out of Black folks in the entire state. Like that's very clear.
Well, I think I kind of understand that, because every quote unquote, every 10 years or every decade you come out with some changes, but the changes are happening systematically. But I'm saying if you are going to focus on services available to those who are in North Richmond, can you anticipate a service point for any one of the service, and how do you define that based on the definition of a census tract? Maybe that's too confusing, but that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Are you talking about service, like a service location? What location?
Yeah, a location for the service and the type of service that will be coming in the community such as North Richmond.
So one reason we did this is to kind of ground you up, get you all ready to have those conversations around the request for proposals. So this body, you all are gonna be designing, there's $3.75 million that's gonna go out into the community. We're gonna put together a request for proposals. And you're all gonna design the qualifications. You're gonna design what it looks like. So let me get a little bit more clear. We're gonna invite all organizations who currently provide services in North Richmond and in Richmond and in Pittsburgh and Antioch to apply. And those are the organizations, wherever they're located, that's where the services, whoever gets selected through that RFP, wherever those organizations are located, that's where the services are gonna take place.
But they're gonna be determining the service based on the recommendations that we will be putting in this. If the selected organization is not gonna determine how many service points is gonna be in North Richmond. It would be coming from this group in terms of a recommendation. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, so I think that's what the conversation here is gonna help
Okay.
determine.
All right.
But to give an example, and this is not decided, but this is an example of what you all would be discussing, right? Applicants are gonna be coming in and they're gonna be located wherever they're located. How do they demonstrate through the questions that we ask in the request for proposals? Now, we're not talking about the lead entity anymore, we're talking about service provider, the RFP that we're going to now discuss next, in the next meeting. What questions do we ask so they can demonstrate that the services that they offer can be immediately accessible by the communities that have been prioritized? So if they are located in those communities, embedded in those communities, that's great. That means the reviewer will be like, this is a good organization because of this reason, or this is one of the reasons what make them strong. If an organization is not in that community, how are they going to demonstrate? Are they going to have mobile units? Are they going to be located in another satellite site? Will they partner with another organization in that community? Will they do street outreach? Will they do home visits? That's the kind of illustration of access that we would want to see inside a proposal, but we need to write to ask questions to get at that information. That's the kind of conversation we want to have. But I'm wondering, Willie, is your concern more about if services are funded in a particular area like North Richmond, but over time, North Richmond becomes has less Black residents, are those services now in a community that's no longer has Black residents in it? Is that your concern?
Well, it's most certainly a part of the concern, yes, but there are other aspects of that too, so I don't want to suck up the soul, because I suspect these conversations will continue, because there's probably not gonna be any particular answer, but just a continuation of concerns and clarity. Thank you.
Can I make that point specifically about North Richmond that I would invite members to think about? When it comes to Richmond and North Richmond in particular, it's a historically Black area. And as Mr. Robinson has shared, there has been a lot of outward migration from North Richmond, this is true, of Black individuals and families. But we need to think about why that is. Is it because that area is not hospitable to Black families or individuals? And if that's the case, then is it the county's responsibility then to increase services and make those and make it a more safe environment for Black families? But of course, at the end of the day, everybody has the right to live and move wherever they want according to their preferences. But it does become an equity question if individuals no longer feel like they can safely reside in an area or thrive in an area.
Understanding too, that we still have to deal with the reality of gentrification. Gentrifying areas happens all the time. And once the area is redeveloped, it's very rare that the people who were there get to go back to that same area. That's just by design. And so to Mr. Willie's point, at the census time, we use a census tract, it may have had a greater population of African American needs in that area. However, my question would be, where are the people now? Are they still yet in Contra Costa County? And if they are, is that something that we need to take in consideration when we're looking at the areas that have been identified, Richmond, North Richmond, Antioch, and Pittsburgh, has populations migrated somewhere other in the county. And I suspect they have not. And so if they're in a different county, then we don't get an opportunity to serve them. But how do we serve who we have today? Is I think.
And by like just adding on to that point, by choosing to not fund services in those areas, are you then further encouraging those numbers to decrease?
Well, the reason I raised it because of, well, I spent a lot of time in North Richmond. My church was there, and I lived in Erie. People would leave because there was lack of services. And the county was not necessarily servicing those in North Richmond, but that's a whole different historical kind of discussion.
I just want to thank you. And yes, we hear you. Like there's driving forces that we can't shift about the past, but we can do our best to like use the data to kind of drive how we can meet the needs now. I was just going to mention that well, I lost one of the points, but I did wanted to say because of Prop 209, like public dollars have to serve everyone. Like, but we're certainly making this a very like a safe space for Black African American folks. And yeah, I just needed to make sure I say that, like that's, you know, we can't exclude anyone, but I think we're gonna really put out the welcome map for folks who are gonna feel safe in a space like this.
One of our challenges is to be intentional. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So we're trying to find a lead agency, correct? And then the entities to work under that lead agency, is that correct?
To work with.
With. And we're doing that at the same time.
It'd be two separate solicitations. The one that you all just approved tonight was for the lead entity. The next one that you will all work on together will be for the service providers.
Okay. Okay.
Are there other questions?
Comments, concerns?
My question is,
Yes.
what are you trying to accomplish tonight? What are you trying to take away?
Part of
Takeaway
what
tonight.
the takeaway is tonight is to increase the awareness and the grounding of what it is that we're pulling from to make some of these decisions. As we continue to drive the work forward, we had to have something to support. We can't just take that whole study and eat the whole elephant. We've got to be able to pull things out that are intentional. And I think that's what the data dig or presentation was about. Here are the things that we want to focus on and bringing everybody up to speed as to where we're trying to pull the data and where we're trying to go. And based on what we're dealing with today and moving forward, how do we intentionally provide direction for the federal DGlover community network that is going to be helpful for the people who are the least served, the most harmed.
And I just, yeah, it came up, there were lots of questions that have come up in the past several months, and we've had like kind of timelines that we've needed to meet, but I wanted to make sure that I responded to the request for more information, for understanding the methodology. And also after doing the RFQ, I realized there's an opportunity to make sure that information presented can kind of be in accordance with the next steps. So for the RFP, we'll have a draft of the RFP at the next meeting. We'll also be hearing from various divisions within health that specifically serve the Black community. And is it UHC too?
Yeah.
And we'll also be hearing from the East Bay Community Foundation, who's holding the current 13 providers that are already out, like as a part of this network. So I just wanted to make sure to continue to like inform the space with our best thinking that we might like have moving in our mind, or that we know that's happening as a part of this project, so that you all have like a more robust set of information to draw from when it's time to draft the RFP and feel like you're, you know, I want folks to feel like real partners, and I've heard many requests for information. So I just wanted to, so today, besides the 2 approvals that we made, it was really about sharing information and making sure if there were more questions, if there's anything more we can provide, we can make you feel well resourced.
Time check, 7:25.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know where we are. I just wanted to follow up on what Jessica was sharing, just so you all can as you prepare for next month's meeting. The health department, we've specifically asked them to come and share the programs that they're currently serving, who they're reaching, who they're not reaching, and to provide you all with recommendations. You don't have to, with recommendations for how to prioritize the 3.75 million, given some of these services are county services. Behavioral health, the county has a behavioral health program. So they're gonna actually come tell you what they're doing, who they're reaching, and what they would recommend you prioritize in terms of the funding. That's the prompt we've asked them to come and speak on.
That will speak to health, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, that brings me to a question. Will the county services be also partnering with these
The network,
agencies?
absolutely,
Yes.
yes. County and community partnership, yep.
Question.
Yes.
Are there gonna be any providers from the, homelessness space coming to do any, and I'm curious, are there any, Black homeless, service providers in that space in the county?
Oh, so I'm not there, we're actually asked, that's a great question for them when they come next week. And we can actually next month, sorry, we can let them know that that's a question that has already come up. We have our H3 health, housing and homelessness director coming to speak to you all. So that's a great question to ask, but we'll prompt her, we'll let her know that question
And
came
your
up.
question, Lauren, is does H3 contract with Black organizations, or is it, does H3 have Black staff? I'm trying.
No, really are there any Black service providers in the homelessness space in the county? I know that there are some big homeless service providers, but I can't think of any off the top of my head, that are Black run.
Thank you.
And considering that we make up like less than 10% of the population in the county, but 50% of the folks who are touching the homeless system of care.
Yes.
Yeah, that's critical.
Thank you.
Good numbers. Yes, ma'am.
So on the Healthy Places Index, I noticed one of the detriments was educational attainment. Is there a plan to include educational services? I didn't see that as a priority up there.
So these priorities do not encompass the full spectrum of everything that's going on in the Black community. These are just the places that we hope to start. As a part of there was a lot that was a part of the feasibility study, but phase one, which is the phase that we're developing out right now, these are the recommended service areas for phase one. But to your point, there are many more, and our hope and dream and community vision is that we'll expand and include many more, including education. This is just where we're starting.
I've got a question. Can we create a running parking lot so we don't miss those types of things? That
Okay.
education, can we create that? Because that's a good point, because while we're talking about health, it's not all of it, but health is the big chunk, is what we're dealing with. Yes, ma'am, doctor.
Yeah, so I will say that that's part of the reason that I signed up for this is not necessarily for, our college or our district to become a recipient of any of these funds, but we are community colleges, right? So I know we partner with like mental health organizations, with a mobile health clinic, and all these other organizations because, the most vulnerable do end up coming to our locations, and we're asked to do a lot with what we can't do with the resources we have. So like one of the reasons I'm here is so that I can be in everybody's ear in my district about like making sure that we are partners, even if we're not fiscal partners in doing the work, especially Las Medanos and Contra Costa, since we're very close to the high need area. So Las Medanos is in the high need area, and we're like in the middle of San Pablo, which isn't, but surrounded by the high need area. So part of the reason I'm here.
All right, as we are looking in time, we got a couple more things we need to cover. How are we on this topic? How do we do so far? Good, or a good start, because it was designed for a start. To kick off some dialogue. Are we good? Do we do all right?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
In the digital, packet, you can look at those those, sites or those dots, those pins. You can look at the census tracts a little bit deeper for neighborhoods that you know well, and, so, you know, you might tell me, girl, that's not what's going on in Pittsburgh. But I did the best I could with that, and so again, we're getting real-time data feedback from you all. And I think we've shared some reference stuff, but I'll send out some more references of some of the things that informed this, just so folks feel fully resourced with this. And if folks in the community ask you, you feel free to share it as well.
Question, is there a possibility for office hours if some of the TCAB members wanted to call and talk more about some questions that they may have individually? Could that be put in place?
Yep.
Thank you. That way we don't have to have Brown Act, we have to report everything and everybody's on the line. We can get the information and it's available and we can synthesize it in part of our dialogue. Does that work?
Certainly, I'm in service to this TCAB, as is the whole office. Feel free to reach out for anything.
All right. So looking at the proposed agenda and where we are, we need a few more minutes.
Is that 5 or 15?
That's what I was getting ready to get to. We need two more hours, okay, everybody? No, and also, all kidding aside, we've got updates, and then we've got the www, where what, who, what, when, and that's basically what we have left to cover. I think we can do it in 10 minutes.
Certainly, and then just the updates and announcements, like if there are other folks want to give updates or announcements, but I think we can cover this pretty quickly here.
Can I get 10 minutes? Move, can I have a motion?
Chair.
Motion to extend for 10 minutes. It's Walter McMahon.
Thank you, Walter.
Second.
Second.
Move by
10 minutes.
second. 10 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I thought we were. I thought it was fine.
All right, can we start in 10 minutes now? And we can start only after we finish voting. Everybody go all in favor, raise your hand.
That's what I was feeling.
All right, let's go, 10 minutes. Start the time. Let's go. What we got coming up now?
Okay, great. So we have approved the RFQ. That is a huge accomplishment. Thank you. We have started our outreach design conversations, and I will be following up with a repository space so that we can continue to capture folks' stuff. I will take the notes that we have from today to already pre-fill some, so that we don't lose anything. We did the presentation. Thank you, Amen. We are also going to continue to identify invitees to lead the entity application process. I just said that, but I said repository. We're also going to send out the request for proposals before the April TCAB meeting so folks can review it ahead of time and receive the presentation from the various Contra Costa health providers. And yes, so that is what we have going on. That is who, what, and when.
Did cover everything? All right, so, based on that last piece, you go around the phone, around the room, one word about tonight's meeting, one word starting with Dr. J, one word. Help you,
One word,
one word,
I'll say cohesion.
okay, Walter,
Progress.
Pat? One word, Pat, you got one word?
Productive.
All right, starting with follow-up, let's Lauren. Hungry. As it relates to tonight's meeting. Yeah, I'm hungry.
Amen.
I'd say inspiring.
Let's give.
Informative.
Is it
Successful.
collaborative? Doc?
I'm sorry. Rich.
Ready?
Clarity, I think you did an awesome job. Thank you for clarifying this.
Informative.
Engaging. Dialogue.
Anybody else? Oh,
Educational.
Right, Peter? Progress? Indra?
Grounding.
Jessica?
Over.
Right.
Exciting. Hopeful.
Back table?
Inspirational.
Good, great, awesome.
Did you say good, great, awesome?
That was a great help. I think it's amazing. Thank you all for your time and your energy. I think we got a lot accomplished tonight. And I appreciate all the staff for all your help, all of you being present. And, well, I need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn, Mariah.
Remove the property second. Is there any, comment, public or otherwise? Seconded. All right. Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Say aye. All
Hi.
opposed? Walter said he abstained. Hurry, all right.
You want us to leave these here, right?
If you'd like, or you can take them, but I'll
No,
have.
Thank you, guys. Travel safely.
We need those, yeah.
Good night.
Come over there.
You don't need to kill
Everyone, thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Take care.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, good night, good night.
Lord,
Hey,
hungry.
hungry. I was speaking.